Ampire. Hey, babies. Hey, baby. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. What's up?
What's going on? How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. For the YouTube people, I just want to say this up front. I did an interview with Ryan Zimmerman. So if you're listening to the radio show or you're listening to the podcast of this, you'll hear that. But because it wasn't on video, you're not going to get it here. So we're doing cross promotion of the same show on different platforms now, Callow. That's how we do this thing. I'll put this up because there's video, but I'm not just going to put up audio because I don't know what in the world I would show. But the interview with Zimmerman's really good. So subscribe to the podcast or listen to the show from 11 to 12 and you'll hear it. There you go.
You could just do the old throw a picture of Zim up and then play it for however long. If you
like 18 minutes. 18 minutes. Static screen. 18 minutes. I guess I could have done that. I've chosen to only show on YouTube the things where there's video involved. That's what I've decided we're going to do.
All right. Fair.
Cool. Is that cool? All right, let's get into what's going on because we got a short one with me and you today. Zimmerman's going to come on, and then Mike Minnich joins us at the bottom of the hour because every Friday we do Spirit Spotlight. He's working for NBC and doing all the Olympic stuff, and the U.S. women's national team's killing it. So he's going to talk about Trinity and her newfound superstardom and what's going on with the Spirit players that are over there in the U.S. women's national team. Anyway, let me start with the Commanders again today. Practice happened again today, and well. It's they would like to hit now was today's practice. This, it's really funny. I was talking to some people on the sideline last couple of days, and the fans have been there this week. They weren't there the first week. And I'm telling you, it's the city open. It's like quiet. Like people are, they ooh and ah when some big play happens, like some of the throws down the field and all that stuff. But in general, it's a very nice, serene golf tennis crowd that's going on there. And I was like bringing this up to some people. I'm like, God, it almost feels like they're not even here because they've been quiet. And today changed a little bit. And I think it's because they want to see a football practice. And they haven't been they've been getting one, but not one like today. And it really showcased that for the first week and a half of this, they've gone out of their way, the coaching staff, to bottle it up. And what was happening today was the lid was being pushed open by the players, and they're ready to hit. So we saw a few moments of this. There was a collision on one of these kickoffs with Byron Pringle, who just showed up yesterday and apparently didn't know the rules of engagement. And he hit Tariq Castro-Fields, and the trainers had to actually come on the field. It appears he's okay. But it was the first real collision. And then I saw on one run, Brian Robinson almost couldn't help himself, but lowered the pads into somebody. And there was just more popping sounds and barking. So they're ready to hit people now. And I think Quinn and Witt and Kingsbury know this. And eventually they just got to let them do it because they are clearly ready to, and they've been told not to up to this point.
I mean, you can bottle up as much as you can with a joint practice coming next week, at least. I mean, that's the good part about this. They're trying to bottle it up as much as possible, but obviously, this happens every year with every single team. What's the breaking point? There's always just a day where it's too hot. They've been hitting the same people. They're not excited about being there anymore. And I mean that in the nicest way possible, but it starts to get the grind. And I'm not surprised. It's a little over a week. And look at the weather, too. It got hot again. Yeah. I'm not surprised at all that all of a sudden the pads started popping a little bit. And guys, this is what happens, too. Guys start to look to start scrapping a little bit too. You know how this works and this is every sport too. Like I always say it in hockey, go watch hockey preseason. Guys are getting in fights that never get in fights before because they just want to be noticed by other people. This is exactly what's happening now. They're all popping each other because they all want to make sure they try to make a team.
And listen, I know how these guys are wired because I've been around them forever. It's unnatural for them to not hit the other guy. It's unnatural. So being told, don't do it only lasts for a while before the instincts just literally take over. And it was happening today. And I think part of it too was the first time they did some full on one-on-one drills, corners and receivers. And then I was kind of locked in on the line because they've been moving all these people around and I just wanted to see how they did in one-on-ones. And I saw Brandon Coleman had a couple really good reps, and then he got his lunch eaten by Dorrance Armstrong for once, but like that's an established pass rusher. Like that's going to happen. And so I got a good look at all of these guys. We got a little bit of Johnny Newton in that. I saw Payne go up against Cosme a couple times. That was good. So we started to see kind of the makings of what I felt was football practice. It was refreshing to have football practice, and I'm assuming it's going to ramp up. They only got a few left before they go to New York. So I think we're going to have a full on. I don't know, if it's going to be the one over the weekend or the last one before they go to New York, but I think they need to like fully pull the lid off, let them go at each other once before they go up into New York, because that really shouldn't be the first experience of doing football again when they go up there. But I'm expecting it to happen. And it was actually refreshing. And the crowd, you could see, reacted to it. Because like for 3 days, they're sitting out there and they're almost like, what's going on here? Like, are we practicing football? And it finally started up.
Yeah. And I mean, look, I'm not surprised the crowd was actually quiet too until, this practice as well, because you and I have talked about this really over the years, really the last 6-7 years, about how training camp just isn't the same. I mean, The new rules, there's no real hitting anymore. I mean, not that they should, but they don't even pop each other really that much. And then, we would always joke about too. 2 days were really 1.5 days or 1.25 days. That second practice used to be a joke, So, I mean,
it's just crazy because like back in the day when I first started covering them was old school, literal 2-a-days. You'd go to one in the morning, you'd take a break, you'd go back out and do it in the afternoon. By the end of that, you could see the look on the face of these players. They wanted to kill somebody. And this went on for like 3 straight weeks. And we're just such a far cry from that. Like a lot of it's been negotiated out, out of like the teams aren't even allowed to do it anymore. And there was somebody, I saw Adam Kaplan from Sirius XM Radio. He's covered the league forever. He told me the other day when he was on our sideline, as he was doing like the camp tour, he goes, yeah, the Eagles have had a bunch of 45-minute practices. And I was like,
what?
Yeah. I was like, what? He's like, yeah. He goes, they come out there, they get everything done. They just walk off the field. And I was like, what? Like meantime, old school Tomlin apparently is going 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And we're kind of in the middle here. The first couple of days, they went like an hour and 15. Now they're doing about an hour and a half. And it's finally starting to ramp up, like finally. And now I think we've eased into this whole thing and it's going to change overnight.
I mean, that's your boy Sirianni, the player's coach. Maybe that's what he's doing.
His friend this time.
Yeah.
He wants everybody to be his friend.
Trying to stay in the good graces there.
He's like, last year they weren't my friend. This year I need to have them be my friend. All right, one other piece of news, because I do want to talk about one other subject with you that's not Commanders in a minute. But there's this little revelation that came out. This is now Thursday morning when Dan Quinn did his press conference, which is the plan isn't for Jamin Davis to just be a pass rusher. He will be getting looks at linebacker again. And he said and emphasized this was the plan the whole time, because all of us have been watching this and going, I don't know how he's going to make the team like this. The numbers don't look good. He's not particularly standing out, albeit, in context, they aren't going full speed. Like I just explained for 10 minutes, they haven't been going full speed. It hasn't been NFL speed yet, but I think I'm seeing the light of the only way he's going to make it is he's got to stand out in one of these two, and they're going to let him go back. And the way he put it was, you can't, because he learned a lesson before when he tried to change somebody's position, that you can't take them too far away from it, or else they kind of lose some of the riding the bike of that skill set of that position. So I think we're going to see a little bit of this again, because the way it's kind of worked out so far, I actually don't think he would make the team exclusively as a pass rusher. So it's again, the clock's ticking on him, but at least I think he's got a chance to show off his natural position here.
I mean, this is rearranging the decks on the Titanic for me. Like now that they're going in that direction, I mean, I don't think he's making the team, period. I mean, it was always going to be tough for him to make the team, but
better shot as a linebacker, just from my point of view at this point. Yeah,
sure. And I mean, he's going to play a bunch of the preseason. So that's going to be his, I guess, calling card is, does he flash in preseason and earn a spot? And, he has to go through your typical kind of things haven't worked out for a first round pick, right? He's going to have to play special teams. He's going to have to contribute in a bunch of other ways, which I'm sure he's happy to do, but we're going to be watching him in a completely different light than we have in the years past.
Yeah, I think so. All right. Since we only have a few minutes left, I referenced this the other day when I was just joking about Alex Ovechkin's interview that he did on a Russian podcast. And the one headline for me that stood out was where he told the host that he laughed when he was asked, have you made $100 million in your career? And I'm sitting there going, how has he not made $100 million in his career? That seems impossible to me that he hasn't, but whatever. That's not the real story of what he told. Like, he talked a lot openly about where he is in his career at 40 and chasing down this record, and basically admitted in this interview in 2 years, he's moving to Russia and you're basically never going to see him again. And he was like, I'm building a house. I love it there. He said Washington's a second home, but he openly admitted, he was like, we have never felt like that was our home. We were always rushing to go back, and described it as, I don't know when my career is going to end. Wink, wink, when I break this record and this contract runs out, but then I'm going to go home and I'm going to be there forever.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's not a new thing. He said that when he was in his first few years in the league. He might not have said it in that same context, but I can't remember any other Russian player staying here after their career's over with. Like, this is just what they all do, because what they do is they tend to be an ambassador for the KHL, play in all of these Putin games and these all-star games. And look, Ovi is probably the most important Russian player. I mean, I don't think that's hyperbole at this point, right? Like,
he was asked, are you going to be like a minister of sport? And he said, I'm not thinking about that right now. He was literally asked that.
If all Vlad asks him to, he's going to be.
Correct.
So there's not an answer there. That's why he's going back. I mean, this is what the whole thing when, the Russian-Ukraine thing started. I was like, do you guys not understand? He's so close because he's so popular to that guy. He can't deny, what is being talked about and all of that. So, yeah, I mean, this was always the plan. And Tarek Al-Bashir did a piece on him years ago. It was one of my favorite pieces he's ever wrote. It was about all of the memorabilia Alex has, and it's shipped over there. Alex wants to open a museum, of all of his memorabilia over there. And so I'm not surprised that's the plan. I'm surprised he kind of said it now because everything gets, thrown out there. But this isn't surprising. This is what almost every single Russian player does. And guess what? He's going to go back to Russia, and he's going to play 2 years in the KHL too. Like, he's going to play 2 years to finish his career out.
I mean, honestly, if I was the play-by-play voice of some Malaysian basketball team, I probably would want to go home too, the second my career was over. Like, I get it. Like, I'm not complaining about it. It was interesting to hear him literally say it. Like, you're going to have a hard time getting me to come back here ever again. And I'm like, the greatest player in this franchise history, and anybody going to come along in my lifetime is going to top him. Like, that is not going to happen. This is the end of it. Like, enjoy it, because he may not even come back for reunion games.
Oh, he's coming back. No, he's going to come back for that stuff. Like, I think he just means he's going to live there. And look, like I said, all Russians do this. You got to remember this too, actually. He's got two sons, and I'm going to guess both Sergey and I forget what his other child's name is. It's always Ovi Jr. and it's Sergey, but I'm going to guess both of them are going to try playing hockey, right? And so he's going to have them go up the same way he did, and that's through the minors in Russia and then the KHL, and then get drafted over here. Trust me, he'll be back over here. Plus, count all of the things that he needs to come back here for. He needs to come back for statue night, retiring number 8, whatever the anniversary they do for the Stanley Cup. He's got like 10 trips lined up. I'm not worried about him never showing up here again. I'm not surprised, though. This is what all the Russians do.
Let me ask you this one, because I've seen a lot of clips, because Cal Ripken's part of the Orioles ownership group. Cal looks a little different. Do you think Ovi is going to become a very large man when he moves back to Russia? And yes, I knew it. I knew you would agree with me. He's going to be obese. Like, I think he is going within 5 years. He's going to be Buster Douglas. You're going to be like, what? Like, that guy was the greatest scorer of all time. What?
I'm going to go, I'll go smaller than Cal Ripken right now. I'm going to go smaller than Cal.
No offense, Cal, but you know.
Look, he gets, do you think he pays for anything in Baltimore? I doubt it. Like, don't blame him. But I look at his parents. So his mom, of course, played basketball, and his dad was also an athlete. And his dad always just had your classic, like, beer gut, that was just who he was. And he wasn't he wasn't obese, but I look at his dad and I go, he's going to look just like his dad. He's just going to have a
the
big
older
beer
you get,
belly.
the harder it is to get rid of that thing.
Exactly. So I think, and no offense to Obi too, we all know how terrible his diet is. That's not going to change when he gets out of the lead. The guy drinks Coke on the bench. So
he has to skate around 3 hours every day, so he works it all off. When those days are over, that chicken parm's going to stick to the gut.
Dude, trust me.
That. I wonder if he's going to miss Mama Lucia's over there. I don't know. That might be something he misses.
That's a good one. I mean, I'm sure they'd be happy to like freeze it and send it over or whatever. But I mean, I was just gonna say, like, from experience right now, like I'm marathon training, I get to eat whatever I want because I'm running all of these miles. I'm so worried for after I run this thing in October that I'm gonna gain a bunch of weight because I'm used to eating every single day so much. So yeah, he's definitely gonna gain a bunch of weight.
Yeah, it was full on real talk. And he's like, we're building a big house outside of Moscow. Yep. I'm going to move there next year is what he said. And then he's kind of stopped himself and he's like, well, I've got 2 years left on this contract, which does make me wonder if he breaks the record next year, is that going to be it? Like, I don't know. I don't know. Like the way it was phrased was kind of like, it was almost like he caught himself. Like, if I do it, I might be done.
I doubt that. So on your previous point too, about the career earnings thing, I looked it up and Russian Machine had a little bit of a chart. Crosby's career earnings were like 157 total. And then Ovi is like 151. He's due.
But that's just your hockey salary.
No. I know. But what I'm getting at is in that, think about how many years he's played now. He's going to be coming up on 20 years, right? He's due 10 million the next 2 seasons per year. So he's not going to give up $10 million and retire. So he's playing the next 2, whether he breaks it or not, because that's actually the most he's ever made on a contract. So
if he breaks it next year, what is he going to be?
He's a power play specialist is what he's going to turn into.
Yeah, they're going to be like, it's 3-3 in the third period, 14 minutes to go. And he's like, send out the other line.
It's going to be Nick Dowd. You're double shifting on the third and fourth line because Ovi's just going out for the power plays these days. Yep. Yeah.
All right. One more little reminder here. Please subscribe to the podcast because by the time you see this on YouTube, the show's already aired. So you're going to need to subscribe to the podcast to hear an interview with Ryan Zimmerman because he has a collaboration with Lost Barrel Brewery and he put out a new beer and it's raising money for MS, which is near and dear to his heart because his mother got it when he was a child. And we talked openly about growing up with your parent, like, having this terrible disease. It's a great interview. And I just didn't want to put it on here because there's no video. So I'm like, who wants to watch a blank screen? So it's my excuse to tell you got to subscribe to the podcast to listen to the interview with Ryan Zimmerman today. But I really appreciate him coming on. And he did have a lot to say about the rebuild of the Nationals. So you'll get to hear that as well. All right, Callow, have a great weekend. I'll talk to you on Monday.
All right, you too, man. See ya.
Let's welcome in Nationals legend, Ryan Zimmerman, who is being brought to us today because he's going to share a really interesting collaboration that he's doing with Lost Barrel Brewing, where he's created a beer, and the purpose of it is to raise awareness for a cause that is close to his heart. Part of the Zims Foundation, MS is capitalized, for hopefully finding a cure for multiple sclerosis. Ryan, thank you so much for coming on today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Tell me about the beer. Tell me about the collaboration. How did it happen?
Yeah, it's sort of a fun project. We've known the family that owns the brewery for years. The guy's daughter actually taught my oldest daughter in preschool.
Huh.
Gosh, I guess 7 or 8 years ago now. And he retired in the last 4 or 5 years. And him and his wife always wanted to own a brewery, so they bought some land out in Middleburg, Virginia, which is about an hour outside the city, and decided to go ahead and go for it. And, me and my wife had been out there a few times, and we'd always talked about collaborating and doing something like this for the foundation. And this year we finally had the time to come through and actually do it. So it's been a fun project for us. They're a great family, and obviously a local kind of small business is always fun to support, and who wouldn't want to have a beer and hang out and do some good stuff? It's a good combination.
Let me ask you a little bit about the cause itself. You have revealed, in recent years that your mother was diagnosed with MS in 1995. So you were a kid when that happened. Can you kind of talk about like how you learned about it, how it shaped you, and the reasons why you have this foundation now?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I was 12 years old is really when we found out that my mom was diagnosed, and I think, you don't really know what to think. Me and my little brother I remember today, my dad and mom sitting us down in the living room and telling us what was going on. And back then, MS was very kind of unknown. Nobody really knew what caused it. Nobody knew how to diagnose it. So it was the very beginning. So it was, it was scary for me and my brother. My parents have always been very positive and, make the best out of life. So that was kind of their message was like, hey, this isn't ideal, but, there's a lot of people, a lot of families that are worse off than us. So let's kind of stay positive with this and be here to support each other. And that's sort of how we've dealt with it ever since. And, my mom is obviously a big inspiration to me and my brother and lots of other people out there. I mean, I can truly say it's pretty amazing to kind of watch her go through what she's gone through and not make excuses, not let it change who she is. And so it's been obviously pretty inspirational and meaningful in my life and shaping who I've become as a person. And so, yeah, I mean, when I was called up in September of 2005, basically that winter, we kind of sat down as a family and said we have this platform that not a lot of people have the ability to access, and we should try and do something good for the cause and try and help other people with MS and ultimately find a cure. And since that winter of 2005, we've been doing all sorts of things, and this is just kind of the latest project that we're doing to hopefully raise some money and help find a cure for MS.
Could you elaborate a little bit more on how it shaped you? What did you mean by that, by learning about this diagnosis and how it shaped you as you grew up?
Yeah, I mean, I think me and my brother both at younger ages had to, learn how to be more responsible, how to do things around the house. The first few years, my mom still taught. She was a special ed K through 5 teacher. So she taught for another year or two. And then, when the MS kind of started to affect her, where she couldn't get through a full day of teaching, she had to stop doing that. And I'm not saying that other kids don't have responsibilities when they grow up, but,
yeah.
My dad was obviously still working. So me and my brother took over a lot of the responsibilities at home. And I think it also just kind of showed us that, a lot of things that you think are a big problem or that you kind of get all bent out of shape about in the grand scheme of things don't really matter that much. So I think learning that lesson at a young age, helped me in life and, oddly enough, really helps in the sport that I played for a long time.
Yeah.
Failure and going through tough times in baseball is very common. And to be able to kind of go through those tough times and every now and then kind of be able to kind of be like, well, I mean, this is baseball. This is a game. Look what my mom's going through. Look what all these other people are going through that are affected by MS on a daily basis. Like, even though I'm, 5 for my last 40, I'm still doing pretty good.
Yeah.
So I think having that sort of perspective, kind of baked in at the beginning of my life, I think really helped me in my career, but more importantly, has helped me become sort of the person I am today and the wife or husband and father and all that.
I'll share a really quick story with you. My son is 11 and he has a very good friend and his mother has it. And it came on fast. Like, I don't know if you had the same experience, but the mother, who's a good family friend of ours, like a few years ago, you wouldn't have known that there was anything wrong. And then suddenly their lives changed. And we've had a lot of conversations with them about, like fairness to the child and how upset they are thinking about their childhood being, affected by this. And so I don't know. I don't need a response from you, but I just wanted to share that with you, that we have a commonality, at least in learning about like how to deal with something like this at a young age.
Yeah. And no, for sure. I think, and we've dealt this with me and my brother, but my dad as well. And I think, and rightfully so, when someone's affected by a disease, everyone always asks about, the person, which obviously is question number one. But when it affects someone so rapidly, like it sounds like it affected your friends, the people around them now become care. It's not an easy way to go about your daily business either. I mean, that's a very hard thing to do. And, my dad has done it for 15, 20 years now. And, I tell my dad all the time, I mean, me and my brother have such great parents and role models to look up to as far as, obviously how they raised us, but now, being married and, saying for better or for worse. And, life doesn't really give you the best plan sometimes, but they, they're fighting through it. And, so, it teaches you a lot of things. It makes you, a better person in the end, but it's tough. And, just one more thing on that. I think you talk about your friends wondering about their child and their kid. And, that's one thing that the foundation has done in the past as well. Every year when I was still playing, I think twice a year, we'd bus a group of school kids out to a day game during the week and have them out as guests of me and, give them a day to basically get away and forget about being a caretaker at age 12, 13, 14, 15, whatever it is. And because I think a lot of people forget that these kids are now thrust into positions of responsibility that they probably shouldn't have to be in, but they step up to the plate. And it's amazing how resilient a lot of these kids are and what they do for their families. So I definitely understand where your friends are coming from, and that's part of what we do as well with the foundation.
You've experienced it, and you've had a foundation that works towards hopefully finding a cure, and it's been going on for about 20 years. What are the advancements in that ultimate goal? Like, what can you share about the research into the disease?
Yeah, I mean, the last 10 years have been positive, and the last 5 years have been really exciting. I think, when my mom was going through it, there was definitely no oral prescription or oral treatment at all. It was injection. And I can remember one of the earliest medications that my mom was taking, it was supposed to help, but it would make her feel like she had the flu for a week or something. So now she's like, great, I have MS and the medication I'm taking makes me feel like I have the flu for a week. So, from where we were, like you said, 20 years ago to where we are now, as far as medication and treatment, we've come a long, long way in a short amount of time. As far as the research is going, I think they're making good progress as well. Ironically enough, the University of Virginia, where I went, is one of the top neurological and MS research universities in the country. So a lot of the funds that we've raised have gone back to the medical center there, and they do a lot of research on, why does it get, why do people get MS? Why, and there's a lot of papers and research stuff that's finally going through the rigors of what it takes to get published and talked about. So you're going to start seeing more and more as the years go on, which is exciting for obviously anyone who has it now, but I think even really more exciting for people who get it in the future. If we can diagnose it, find it early enough, there are some good therapeutics out there that can help either let you live a normal life for the rest of your life or, let you live a normal life for longer than you would have. So it's exciting. And, I feel like every year they discover more and, it's one of those diseases that was pretty much unknown 20 years ago. So we kind of started from the beginning and they've made lots of progress in the last 5 to 10 years.
I appreciate you sharing all that. All right. If you would just indulge me, I promise, a very short baseball discussion because I got you here and I want to ask you.
Of course.
Just in general, the Nationals are rebuilding. In your viewpoint at this point, How are they doing in that process?
Yeah, and like this year I've actually been around a good amount. I'll have done probably 55 to 60 days, a week out, and I still live in the Virginia DC area, so I've been getting over to the field like basically 3 games a homestand, which has been awesome for me to stay involved and get to know some of these young kids that you're talking about that are going to be the next core group for this team that can hopefully have, a decade worth of teams like we had that are expected to make the playoffs every year, hopefully make the playoffs and get ready to make a run at another World Series. But, I think, Rizzo has always done a good job of knowing when to trade people, how to restock a farm system. And you're starting to see some of those kids come up now. I mean, CJ Abrams is obviously having a breakout year this year. He was an all-star. James Wood got called up, I guess, about a month ago now. So he's starting to kind of settle in and learn what it takes to be a big leaguer. The young pitching has been great at the big league level for this year. I would honestly say it probably was about a year ahead of schedule. We'll see. We'll see how they do in the second half. I think, as you know, pitching has changed a lot in how we develop pitching. So a lot of these guys have never pitched basically past August. And, this is going to be the first year where they're going to throw 175, 180 innings. So I don't think it's so much, Nats fans shouldn't pay attention so much to the numbers and how they finish, but we just need all these guys to get through the season healthy, have a full year of pitching, go into the off season ready to come back next year knowing that they can throw 180 plus innings. So, I think that's kind of the quick wrap of what's happened at the big league level. And then, Dylan Cruz has done well the last 6 weeks. My favorite guy is a guy named Brady House that we have that, I mean, I don't want to say nobody knows about him because he's on these top prospect lists and all this stuff, but as a high school shortstop out of Florida, they moved over to third base, but still feels like a shortstop. And he's like 6'4", so he's a big kid. He's got big power, but he's athletic. And like, my favorite thing about him is he just loves the game of baseball. He's just a simple guy that just loves playing. He plays hard. He works hard. So yeah, that's my quick recap. I'm sorry, I forgot. I don't want to leave out any of the guys because I've been around a good amount of them, but I mean, the future is bright. And, I say that hesitantly because prospects are prospects and you never know who's going to actually pan out and become an everyday big leaguer. But being around them a lot this year, I think they're all impressive players, but they all have great attitudes. Their work ethic is up there. And, if you have the ability to work hard, make adjustments and keep going in this game, I think that's almost more important than talent sometimes. So it's been fun to be around those guys. And honestly, I'm almost more excited to see how these guys do than when I was playing. Like, towards the end of my career, I was coming off the bench and got to work with guys more. And you almost feel more satisfaction when these guys have good at-bats or they do something that you were talking about. So it's been fun for me to chat with them and then watch them play. And I'm excited to keep doing that in the future.
All right. Last thing. Since you went through this process and you were a really good player on a team that was building and then did turn the corner and got really good for a number of years, what would you say to the established players like CJ Abrams or others about patience with the organization as they try to build around you to build a contender?
Yeah, I mean, I think nobody likes losing. First of all, that's the first thing I would say. We're all competitors. I did go through many seasons where we lost 90, 100 games sometimes. And I'm not going to sit here and say I enjoyed it. I did have great perspective, though. I was a 21-year-old in the big leagues. And I knew that maybe I was getting that chance because I was on that team. Not that I didn't deserve to be in the big leagues or I couldn't have success in the big leagues, but some other teams, there's people that are already there. So I looked at it in a positive way as, listen, I have a chance to play in the big leagues at a young age. If I work hard and kind of show that I can produce, I'm here. And then when things start turning around, like, I don't want to say it makes you appreciate winning more when you've lost, because trust me, I'd rather just win every year. I mean, that'd be ideal. But I think there's something to be said for going through winning seasons, losing seasons, staying with one club, being loyal. The fan base gets to learn and know these players. And also, like, I think when you start chasing competitive teams and trying to win a World Series, like, you can find yourself just kind of going around in circles. Because the truth is, nobody really knows who's going to win the World Series at the beginning of the year. I mean, look, we had Arizona last year make it to the World Series and almost, had a chance to win it. So, like, I think my best advice to these guys is, baseball is a team sport, but it's also an individual sport. Take care of yourself. Keep getting better every single day. Keep learning. Keep your head down. Keep working hard. And if you do that, and you go about your business and you do things the right way, eventually you're going to get a chance to have your time. And I think the guys that try and chase that can get it's tough to get into that mode. So stay loyal, keep working hard, keep improving every year, every day. And when you do finally have that team that makes the playoffs and hopefully wins the World Series, it's so rewarding to do it with the team you came up with the team that you went through struggles with, and now to ultimately reach, the top of the mountain with so many people that went through those struggles with you. I can't tell you how rewarding that was when it finally happened for me.
Ryan, you've been really generous with your time. Thank you so much today for sharing all those stories, your insights, obviously, on the team. And congratulations on the collaboration with Lost Barrel with number 11. I'd love to get a beer with you sometime, and I'd like to try it. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to get the word out, and we'll definitely grab a beer. You let me know when you're in town.
All right. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
Let's welcome in one of my partners in the Spirit broadcast booth, Mike Minnich, who is covering the Olympics for NBC and the U.S. women's national team and soccer at large after a really great start in group play for the women's team. Hey, Mike, how are you?
Doing very well. Yeah, it was great to see the perfect start in group play. That's only happened once in London before now. So just the kind of start you want with a younger U.S. group that's, for the most part, in their first big tournament is either the focal point of the team or period in the case of some players.
It's interesting. Like, I don't know, not that long ago, them sweeping group play at the Olympics wouldn't be like a big headline, but things have changed in global soccer. The U.S. women's national team is not the power that they were. So what did you kind of make of sweeping group play as they move into the knockout rounds?
I think the way they did it, and especially that second game. I mean, Germany has not been a superpower the last couple tournaments, but they're still one of the better teams in Europe. So to go at it and really beat them decisively 4-1, that was the game that stuck out to me. And then against Australia, you kind of managed that game. You know what you need. Australia even knew they just needed a tie to kind of put themselves in position to possibly advance. So I think they were playing conservatively. So the U.S. kind of had to play against a different look. And that hasn't always worked. When teams sit back against the U.S. recently, that's not gone well. But it went pretty well yesterday. And again, I think it's because this team has three game breakers up front. So Thea Smith, Mallory Swanson, and Trinity Rodman are all really capable of creating something for themselves or for somebody else with a really, really creative and unique play.
You mentioned Mallory Swanson. I want to get into Trinity in a minute because she's getting the type of attention that, we know she's a star. I think the world is starting to see it. I'll get into her in a minute. But one of the, I don't know if controversial is the way to put it, but controversial decisions was not to select Alex Morgan. And the substitute choice was Mallory Swanson. And that has paid off big time for them so far.
Yeah, and I think Swanson would have gone regardless, but it was just a question, but do you take Morgan or do you maybe take a Lynn Williams or somebody like that? And that three has cooked really well. And I've said before that the U.S.'s failure at the World Cup last year, part of that was timing because Swanson was hurt, Kat Macario was hurt, Becky Sauerbrunn was hurt. They had a lot of players they were really counting on that were just hurt at that window of the season when they needed them the most. So Swanson comes back. She was kind of the golden child, got picked up for the Olympics in 2016 kind of controversially as a younger player. Didn't feature too much in that tournament. Did score a goal in that tournament. Didn't get picked for Tokyo, and has now really earned her way back through her play with Chicago, where she's been by far their best player the last couple of years, and now worked her way back into the national team and become a starter again.
All right, let's talk about Trinity Rodman for a moment. Aforementioned, obviously she's had an incredible start here. She's had a massive impact in all of the matches so far. And because they're winning and because they're kind of back in this place again, and because they're kind of exceeding expectations, I think there's just more attention on her suddenly. So doing it on this stage, I guess we'll see what happens from here, but what kind of carryover of stardom do you see for Trinity following this tournament?
I think it'll be big, and I loved what John Champion and Julie Seidig were saying during the Germany broadcast, that they were reading the publications in German, and they were calling her an American pop star. I think that's exactly what she is. She's someone, she has the pink hair, she has the braids, she has the big personality on TikTok and social media, and she backs it up with her play on the field. So I think she is probably going to be the breakout star of this tournament in terms of national attention, in terms of endorsements, commercials. She was already getting some of that. But I think that's going to explode, especially if the U.S. goes all the way and wins the gold medal.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into that a little bit. Their next match is Japan. What's just your general, early preview of what they have in the quarterfinals?
Japan, I think, is always really tough to play against because they play an excellent possession style. They're really smart. They are very disciplined. They're not going to beat themselves. But I think their weakness, I don't think they have offense that some of the teams that are left in this tournament do. So I think their game plan is going to be kind of manage the game, maybe win in a set piece. I saw them play Spain in the opener, and it was very similar. Like they scored on a free kick, they kind of sat back and absorbed Spain's pressure, and then they get overwhelmed a little bit at the end. So I kind of expect something like that, where it's a 1-0 game, maybe a 2-1 game, but I don't see it being a super open game in the quarterfinal.
Okay. What did you make of what is the bizarre story of the Canadian team being docked points for using drones to watch other teams' practices?
I think we're just starting to see the tip of the iceberg with that, because obviously they had to immediately make a move in the Olympics. Like you said, they docked the points. They still advanced.
They still
won
advanced.
every game, and they still advanced. So we're going to continue to deal with that. But then it becomes a question of how far back does this go? How much did it affect things? I mean, this Canada team won the gold medal in Tokyo. And one of the reasons why they did was because they were able to save a ridiculous amount of penalty kicks. So then that gets thrown in suspicion. It's very much like a steroid doer, right? Like, did this player hit 60 home runs clean? Were they on steroids?
Yeah.
Did Stephanie LeBay save all these penalty kicks because she watched film and knew a lot of things, or because she got an extra edge from these drones? Like, that's what you're going to get into. And the other interesting wrinkle is John Herdman, who was the Canadian men's national team coach for the last World Cup, he was the women's coach before that. So you really have this rot going into both the men's program and the women's program at Canada. And the other interesting wrinkle with that is his job before Canada was New Zealand, who turned them in. So you wonder if maybe they knew something from 10 years ago that they brought up in this situation.
Now this reminds me of Spygate with the Patriots. It was their ex-assistant, 100%. Eric Mangini, who turned in Belichick and turned in his old team.
Exactly. So I think it very much could be that situation where New Zealand knew, and they were just waiting until, we're in a major tournament. Now we can prove it. We're going to bring this up.
Yeah, pulled the ace out. And it is crazy. They advanced. And it's possible the U.S. is going to play Canada in the semifinals. That's a possibility here.
It is. I think I would pick Canada against Germany the way they played in this tournament. I think they could absolutely beat Germany. Like I said, I like the U.S., so that could be a semifinal. And again, I mean, that's Darren Soon playing in a gold medal match and playing for bronze. So that would be a huge match. And that rivalry, and that goes back to talked about the London game. That's probably maybe the best U.S. game in the Olympics was 2012, where Christine Sinclair went off for Canada. Alex Morgan scored late. U.S. won, I think it was 4-3, and got to the gold medal game. So we could have a repeat of that in Paris in a couple weeks.
All right. One other Spirit player to ask you about, Croy Bethune. What do you think, if any, her role will be as they move into the knockout round?
It'll be interesting because they have maintained throughout she is in this spot because Jaden Shaw is not healthy. So if Jaden Shaw is back, they might rotate her back in. But then the other wrinkle, of course, for this match is you've got a suspension with Sam Coffey. She's got 2 yellows. So, and you can't replace her on the roster. That was confirmed today by the Olympics and by FIFA. The U.S. has 17 players for this game against Japan. So now it becomes a question of, do you keep Croy, who is a really good attacking player, but kind of just does one thing, or do you maybe use that spot for someone who can help you more in a couple different spots or defensively? So that's an interesting thing to look for too, is maybe you want to keep Croy, but because of the numbers game, you have to maybe sit her for this next match.
Okay, last thing. How confident are you that the United States could end up winning the gold medal?
I am confident, and I think it's like we were just talking about. I think the bracket sets up well. Japan is good, but they're not France. They're not Spain. So you win that game, hopefully. You're either playing Canada, who is good, but is not a team that's going to, win a World Cup. They're pretty good. Or Germany, who you've just beaten. So I like that matchup on this side. I think the problem is on the other side. When you're looking at France, you're looking at Spain. I think the more dangerous teams for the U.S. are on the opposite side of the bracket.
Mike, thanks so much. Enjoy, and we'll catch up soon.
Yes, perfect. Always good to talk to you.
And that'll do it for today. Everybody have a great weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday. Bram Weiss Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.